inequalities involving absolute value, make sure to annotate. So I need to see things on here that are not just numbers. Then of course remember to take the Edmodo quiz after you're done. So as always with absolute value, there are two cases, where the expression inside there is non-negative or the expression inside is negative. Okay, so there's going to be two cases because two things have the same absolute value. Remember, the absolute value of something cannot be negative. For the case where the expression is negative, the inequality needs to be flipped. So this is something you're going to want to remember to do every time. Flip the inequality. Okay, a couple quiz questions here. You're going to need to be able to recognize whether the answer is all real numbers or no solution. Since absolute value is always positive, it will always be greater than a negative number. So if it's greater than a negative, it's going to be all real numbers. Since absolute value is always positive, it will never be less than a negative number. So if you see this case, it's no solution. Okay, let's look at an example problem here. I have m plus 2 is less than 11. So I'm going to have my two cases. So remember how to set up your two cases. That's going to be a quiz question. Have m plus 2 less than 11, m plus 2 greater than negative 11. So this is a perfect thing to annotate in your notes. For the second one where I switched it, I had to reverse the inequality. So that's a great thing to annotate, highlight right here. Solve them both the same way. So it looks like that. So then of course you can graph your answer. And it looks like this. So any of these numbers between negative 13 and 9 would work, but negative 13 and 9 themselves would not. So there's your first example. Now I'm not going to go much into the graphing because we've done that before. Let's look at number 2. So again, I'm checking to see if this is a negative. No. I'm going to write my two cases. And I even messed it up that time. So maybe this is a good thing to annotate and write down. Reverse the inequality on the second one. So right here I had to reverse it when I changed that to a negative. Solve them both the same way. So it looks like that. So again, I'm not going to go much into graphing because we've done this before, but the main thing is when you make your two cases, just to make sure you reverse the inequality on the second one. The other thing is you can tell what your graph is going to look like based on how your inequality is facing, and I'll show you that after this next one. Okay, so write your two cases. 3n plus 6 greater than or equal to 12. 3n plus 6 less than or equal to negative 12. So I had to reverse my inequality. Solve them both the same way. So it looks like that. And then my graph. Okay, so the one thing I want you to see is on the graph, see how my arrows are pointing out in this case? When you see this greater than, they're going to be pointing out. Here I have less than, so it comes together as a segment. That's the same thing I had on number 2. It was less than. So make sure you look at that. And number 4, if I look at number 4, okay, I see a negative sign. So I'm thinking there's going to be something different about this. Okay, so I have absolute value is always a positive number. So it's always a positive number. So will a positive number be less than a negative 3? No, a positive number will never be less than a negative 3, so I have no solution. And then the last thing, I want to make sure you guys know this, because this is going to be a quiz question, how you can set this up. When you have a word problem, and you can read the word problem, but just to show you how you set it up, you have your absolute value bars, start with x minus, then your goal or your midpoint. In this case, it's how many students they surveyed. Within, remember what within is, it's inclusive, and then our variance. How much could it go up or down by? So it has a margin of error, which means they could be 3% off. So make sure you study these, slow it down, rewatch it if you need to, take the Edmodo quiz, and make sure you have annotations.